Welcome.
To the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 356 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Welcome. Going to be live hacking on some Firefox stuff today. Going to be writing some patches maybe, writing some code. Going to be reviewing some stuff. Let's get into it. I'll start by sharing my screen. 1 second. Yeah, guess what? It's February 21st, 2024, everybody. I don't know if you knew that. Episode 356. Hey, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today. I think I know how things are going to go, but it might not. It might not. Things might go completely sideways. I might get sidelined. Rat hold on some problem or stuck, or who knows what'll happen. Or we might not even get past the first review. We might be working on that the whole time. Who knows? No plan survives breakfast. We're going to do our best to get through it. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you're watching this, the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to if you want to click on links and follow along and stuff. If you're watching this on YouTube or Diode.zone, check out the video description. If you're watching this on Airmozilla, check out the details section over there. And if you're watching this on I just said Airmozilla. If you're watching this on Twitch, it's down in the channel details down below. I'm seeing some chat. Lake Meadow 1 says, "Where are you, Mike?" I'm guessing that's just that's from just before I started. So I'm here, Lake Meadow 1. And Kruzbodge says, "Hello. Can I ask you a code question?" Sure, why not? Go ahead, drop it in the chat, and I'll do my best to try and answer it. Okay. While we're waiting on that, let's do some reviews. So I've had some review requests in my review queue for a little bit. It's time that I get down to business and really review these. I took a look at one of these last week, and I'd like to get these cleared out. So what is this? What are we looking at? Well, guess what, everyone? There's a dialogue. There's a new dialogue for clearing your history. So if you go to history, clear recent history, you'll see this dialogue. This is a new-ish dialogue. I actually think there's maybe a small bug here with the size of this font. That's new. That might be a recent regression. But suffice it to say, there is a dialogue and it is new. And one thing that it doesn't currently do, according to this bug, it doesn't remember the user selection. So for example, if you fill in the dialogue or you open the dialogue and you choose some things and then you clear your history and then you reopen it, it doesn't remember your previous selection, and we would like it to do that. So that's what this patch does. I think that's for parity with the original clear history dialogue. So there are 3 patches in this series. This is Harshit, one of our interns, I believe, working on this. Paul, his I believe is his teammate, is I believe his mentor, has already given this one a review. So I don't really need to look at this one because Paul has signed off on it. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to familiarize myself with what okay, so Kruzbodge. So a quick diversion. Kruzbodge writes, "I'm having problems in my for loop. Once it sees the nulls, it stops loop. Any idea how to fix it? Well, let's hope I'm not about to get owned." Let's take a look at this paste bin. Okay. So this is some C, it looks like. And we're doing there's a function that does, I presume, some kind of string comparison between 2 strings. There's an int main here. We start with some statically defined arrays, character arrays. We're going to scan f into the S array. Hopefully no one puts in more than 100,000 characters. We're going to do another scanf into the T array, and then they're running my stir comp. And they're not doing anything with the result, I'll note, but they're running it. And then what do we do here? So we get, we're passing, we're like getting the references to these 2 character arrays. So these 2 pointers show up on the other side. We're going to create some ints here. We're starting at int 0 or 0 for some S and some T, and we're going to create for char. I mean, let me just keep reading this for a second. So it looks like we want to loop while I is less than si plus I, and then if si is 32, then what is the mean, like, what are you trying to do? Tell me. This is the assignment. Oh, this is is this a school assignment? Hold up. You said assignment. Kruzbaj, I don't think I should be helping you with an assignment, I'm afraid. I can give you maybe a little bit of feedback. What I would suggest, I would review for loops and what they're trying to do. Like, maybe what you could focus on instead of doing the comparison is start smaller. See if you can loop through the array of characters and print out each character. Just try that. Like, I can see that you're trying to printing out the S pointer. See if you can get each. Yeah, I would try and like avoid this stuff for now. Just do one at a time, or just focus on one. And the first thing to do is to just see if you can loop through one of these arrays and print out the characters one by one onto the screen, just to get for loops kind of under your belt and under your hands. I did, but stuck on the exit the loop. Yeah, I have a feeling that just kind of reading this, that the loop will continue to run while I is less than si. So what I would recommend is you kind of look around on the internet, maybe look through your textbook on examples of how one can iterate through a character array. And like how what's the beginning and middle and end of that? Like, where do you start? What's the end? And how do you iterate through it? I really don't think I don't want to go into too much more detail, though, because I don't want to make this into a stream where I help people with their homework. But that's where I would recommend you focus on, is just focus on doing a for loop through the string, printing one character at a time, and really study how for loops are supposed to work with character arrays. You know, what's the beginning? How does the middle work? And very importantly, how does the exit work? How does a for loop terminate? And how are you supposed to terminate when you're iterating an array of something? Like, how does it know when to end? So really look at that. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I'm sorry I can't be more clear. I don't want to make this into a homework assistant. I don't want to help you cheat. This is good. So I'm gonna give you some advice, though, Kruzbaj, which is that this is a really interesting problem. You're at the very beginning, and so I'm so excited for you to like learn this stuff. And if you're struggling with it, if you're still trying to like you're still wrestling with it, that's great. That's really that means that you've got so much like potential for learning here, because there's a puzzle. This is a puzzle, and there are a couple of ways of approaching it, but the way I would try and approach it is to simplify it and just look at the basic operation of going through an array. I think of an array as like a single array is just like an ice cube tray, but instead of it being like a square, it's just a long line of ice cubes, and there are little slots, and your for loop is trying to go through each part of the ice cube tray until it reaches the end. How does it know when the end is? Like, how are you supposed to know that? And how do you reach in and do something with each item in the ice cube tray? That's the way I visualize it anyways. Yeah, and this idea of like iterating through an array, this is stuff that should be in a textbook, and if it's not in a textbook, you will find examples online. These are the key phrases to look for, like iterating a character array in C. That's what you're trying to do. Okay, let's get into this. So I'm just familiarizing myself with the first patch in the stack. I don't have to review this one, but I just want to know how it works. So it looks like there are some prefs that are being set up here, some default ones. Privacy.clear history. History form data and downloads set to true, cookies and storage true, cache set to true, and site settings set to false. And then there's this different branch, which is clear site data. History form data and downloads false, cookies and storage true, cache true, and site settings is false. Clear history, clear site data. Clear history and clear site data pref branches are used to remember user pref options based on the 2 different entry points. I see, there are 2 different entry points to worry about. And in the sanitize dialog, what do we do? So there's some stuff here. I guess that was for the old dialog. We would get access to a checkbox, and we would just set some references to some DOM elements. We only did that if we weren't using the old dialog. And then over here, so does this get moved? Did this get, what happened to this? Okay, it got moved. Got moved. Are we in the same function? We're still inside of init. This is a long function. This initialization function is quite long. Let's take a look at the whole thing. Okay, so that's the whole initialization function. So we are removing this elsewhere, and then there's a chunk here that clear site data has its own default checkboxes. All other entry points follow the clear history default prefs. Is this being moved, or is this being removed? Looks like this is being removed altogether. Line 163, 165, 98, 98. So the usages are all being removed. Okay. Instead, we get access to the clear site data group box in the dialog. If in clear on shutdown new dialog, sanitize button okay on shutdown, or set in clear on shutdown to true. Remove the other group box elements that aren't related to the context the dialog is opened in. Okay. We're going to remove some DOM elements. I guess we were doing that before, and now we're removing site data as well. And then there was some Elton attribute setting going on here. That's happening down here now. Here we are checking, update the initial checkbox values based on the context the dialog is opened and categories are not remembered from the last time. So we are reversing this comment, it seems. So at the very least, it was known that we weren't remembering the last categories being selected, and now we're changing that. Clear site data, new dialog. We remove this, otherwise we remove that. And then we're getting access to the checkbox. We were getting access to the checkboxes, and then updating accept button state after each one is selected. Add event listeners to the checkbox to ensure that the clear button is disabled if no checkboxes are checked. Okay. And the defaults, I see. So we're having some defaults reference point to one or the other of these. and then we were going through the checkboxes and setting them to be checked to be true if the defaults were set. Okay, now instead, okay, here's where we're setting those references. Here we get all of the checkboxes. So like all of the setting is happening further down, I guess. Where does that occur? All checkboxes. There's a get item prefs. Return the Boolean prefs that correspond to the checkboxes on the dialog. The time span pref isn't a bool, so don't return it. Oh, that's interesting. So instead of going through all of the preferences and filtering for ones that don't violate these constraints, we're just getting all of the checkboxes and getting the preference attributes from them. Calling the value of a preference element is synced from the actual pref. Preference get pref value equals true. Find any other pref that's checked and enabled. Okay. I see. If some of them are true, as soon as one of them is true, then found is true, and then we'll, I guess, one of them, if at least one of them is checked, we'll let the accept button be pressed. Okay. Down here, get items to clear. Get all items to clear based on checked boxes. So we'll go through all the check boxes. Where does the initial state? Maybe I missed it. Maybe the initial state was being set elsewhere. Where do we? Oh, you know what it is? I'll bet you there's some magical binding stuff going on here. So we're adding new checkboxes. Let's take a look at this. Let me pump up the font so you can see what I'm doing. I am pulling down these patches. I'm going to take them all. Let me take a look at this. Does the sanitized dialog have some kind of like preference binding preferences? Where does that come from? I think this is some kind of global. Where is this loaded? Ah, preferences bindings. Yeah. Okay, so I understand now. So preferences bindings, for the people who aren't familiar with them, allows us to connect items in about config with DOM elements and have like bidirectional synchronization between them, so that like if you change like these Boolean attributes or Boolean preferences will probably usually be represented as like a checkbox or something. If you uncheck it, it will write to about config, the preferences database. And similarly, if you were to like programmatically change the preference in about config or flip it in about config, that is supposed to update the DOM element that's being represented here. So that's what the preferences bindings do. And I think we're kind of like getting some of this for bidirectional syncing for free, which is why we're not seeing the checked attribute being set. Let's go ahead and apply these patches. So, you know, I don't even need to really review this patch. I wasn't asked to review it, but now I kind of get a sense of what it's trying to do. I am curious about how this is going to look. Like we're adding a new section here, but we may not show it. It really depends on the entry point, maybe, because like these group boxes, they're being like removed from the DOM depending on the way that we enter into the sanitize dialog, which is interesting. Let's take a look and see if we can see the two different ways we can enter into the sanitize dialog. So I know one way is clear recent history. That's this. The other way might be site data, clear data. This one. So like, this should be the clear site data group box. Let's take a look. I gotta choose the right frame. Clear site data group box, right. Okay. Okay, I think I understand. Whereas like what we have right now, clear data. Oh, you know what it is? I think I understand. I know why we're duplicating it. It's because we want to remember different states for the different contexts. So one's for whether you're clearing site data, the other one's for whether or not you're clearing history, and we want to remember them independently of one another. And so Harshit's solution is to have two different sets of preferences and for remembering those states, and two different group boxes. Okay, and then reusing strings and whatnot. I mean, some of it's a little awkward in that, like, we're sharing IDs here. I think I will mention that. So like there's already a history form and downloads item right here, and we're adding another one here. So I know this patch is already reviewed, but I wanted to mention this. I see what you're doing, and I get it. We want to remember the states of the checkboxes depending on the contexts that they're presented in, either via the clear history pathway or the clear site data pathway. In doing so, you know, that's a fine way of doing it, and you get to take advantage of the preferences bindings and Fluent to mostly recycle the original markup. One of the things you're also recycling are the IDs of the original markup, like this one, history, form, data, and downloads. You have, there's a pre-existing node with that ID. This feels like a little bit of a foot gun. Is there anything that actually uses that DOM ID? As DOM ID attributes are supposed to be unique, are generally assumed to be unique. If the ID is being used, it might be best to have it instead be something like, have it instead belong to a different attribute, like, I don't know, clearing item ID, clearing item type or something, and then queries can go against document.query selector clearing item type equals history, form, data, and downloads. That way we don't violate the unique ID assumption for DOM elements. I don't think that needs to block this, but would be good to clean up in a follow-up. Okay. Submit. So now we know what he's doing. Let's look at the other patches here. This is the one of the ones I'm actually supposed to review. Tests for remembering user prefs in the clear history dialog. Okay, so he's writing tests. That's great. Let's take a quick. Oh, okay. So he's got 2 tests that he's writing. He's adding. Let's see what he's doing. He's modified clear site data, this one condition. I don't know what that's all about. And then he's added tasks to this one. Let's take a look at this one to begin with. What is this? Clear site data. Let's look at this whole thing. Test clear data. That looks like a big utility function. Does anything actually use it? Yeah, down here, test clear data. So these are different variations on doing a very complicated thing. I wish this method was documented with explaining like what it does and what these are for. But let's read through. So we open a new tab. We add a persistent storage permission. We open a new tab and then we remove it. And then we open a test site which saves into app cache. Okay, fill IndexedDB with test data. Register some service workers. Test the initial states. Okay. And then we open up the dialog, the clear site data dialog. Then we make sure that the dialog is showing the totals, the size totals correctly. Okay, so those 2 arguments are for checking the boxes on what we're going to try and clear. This test, it looks like it's designed to also work for the old dialog. That's interesting. Okay. And here, so if we're not clearing either and we're using the old clear history dialog, then simulate user input on one of the checkboxes to trigger the event listening for disabling the clear button. Wait for condition the button is disabled. Otherwise, clear button. So I guess there are other things that will be deleted in that case. What? I don't fully understand. I guess the old dialog, you must choose one or the other for any of this to go through, but for the new one, maybe there's more options. Okay. And over here, sanitize dialog v2. So this is just for the new dialog. Test remembering user options for various entry points. So get a dialog helper. We're gonna check the pref checkboxes in these. I guess we're not performing a check, we're actually setting a state to one or the other and then accepting. Open and then wait for it to close. Validate if prefs are remembered. So we open it up again. Validate checkbox that cookies and storage is false. Site settings is true. Yeah, cookies and storage should be false. Site settings is true. Then we're going to check Site settings is false. Cookies and storage is true. Then we're going to cancel. And we'll open it up again. And it shouldn't have saved. So cookies and storage is false. Site settings is true. Cancel again. Open it up again. And then can we merge these two? Feels like we can probably merge these two. Or is there a good reason we'd want to close the dialog again before opening it to set these prefs, these checkboxes? Site settings to false, cache to false, cookies and storage to true. Accept, and then validate that cache is false, cookies and storage is true, site settings is true. So one thing I've noticed is that we're being a bit inconsistent in the ordering of items here. For example, in the above, in lines 706 to 708, we have site settings, cache, and then cookies and storage. And here on lines 718 to 720, we have cache, cookies and storage, and site settings. This makes verifying, visually verifying the assumptions a little more difficult. Can we please try to keep the setting and the checking in the same order across each test? Each part of this test. Okay. We had some dead code here. Okay, and that got removed. And then down here, oh, this is an older version, I guess. Test default prefs. Okay, so we're just extending on that. I'm fine with that. You know, minus these two nits, nothing major. I'm gonna accept that. That's good. Okay. Migrate prefs for clear history dialog for both contexts. What if the test also implicitly tests the order of toggling the checks? I mean, maybe that's the maybe that's what he's doing. That would be more testing the preferences bindings, though. In which case, I would recommend he not be testing that part and to instead write a test for the preferences bindings to check if order matters. But good thinking. Good thinking. All right. I had looked at this last week. I talked a little bit. So what he's doing is we've got these old preferences, but since this is nightly, it should be all right. The migration should run the same again. It wouldn't be too costly. What are your thoughts? Has migrated to new prefs. Is this nightly only? Pref has migrated to new prefs. False. Maybe migrate sanitizer. If in clear on shutdown new dialog. And that's only true if arg mode equals clear and not use old dialog. And use old dialog, where does that come from? Use old dialog comes from privacy sanitize use old clear history dialog. And that is... Okay, held to nightly. I see. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it is held to nightly for now. I think I didn't realize that this had been held to nightly until now. Okay, this makes sense. Thanks. So yeah, he's just changing some of the rules here. Let's migrate to new prefs. Migrate old prefs to the new prefs. Clear and shut down. So we have to assume that people will not have gone through. This is interesting. Migrations are interesting. We have to think about people on nightly who've been going through the process of having the new the new dialogue turned on, and then having the prefs migrated. And by migrated, I mean there are old prefs, and they're being like at runtime. We're reading those old prefs in and writing new prefs that those map to use from here forward. It's like a database migration, if you've ever done one of those. And that, if we're doing that on nightly, that makes sense. We need to make sure that when this finally gets turned on beta and goes out to release, that people on those channels will also properly migrate. So what was the old migration doing? Shut down. It was getting privacy clear on shutdown cookies, clear on shutdown history, and clear on shutdown cache, and clear on shutdown site settings, and then writing those prefs. It also wasn't changing them. It was just getting them and then writing new ones. That's interesting. CPD. So how does this work? Context. We read clear on shutdown. Clear on shutdown, and the other one is CPD. Okay. Okay, hold on. So we read clear on shutdown, privacy clear on shutdown. That's functionally equivalent. Functionally equivalent. We read those in. The new context equals, if it context is clear on shutdown, then clear on shutdown v2, or it's clear history. And then we're writing the new context. I see. Okay. 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 I think I understand. And then, ensure no old prefs are affected by affected. That should be affected. Okay. Sanitize, clear, and shut down. Migrate to new prefs. False. Okay, I think I understand. Privacy sanitize, clear on shutdown. It used to be sanitize on shutdown. But that pref is changing. Sanitize on shutdown. It's now clear on shutdown, has migrated to new prefs. And then CPD. I don't know what that stands for. CPD. Sanitize button, clear on shutdown, group box remove, clear site data, clear personal data, I would presume. Clear site data, clear private data. Private data. Okay, clear private data. History, form data, cookies, offline apps, sessions, site settings, and cache. And then also privacy, clear history, cookies, and storage is false. Okay, and then we're making sure that the new dialog when it opens has the right state and that migration completed. Okay, that's nice. It's nice that that's tested. And so he's just renaming a preference here. Okay. Okay. I think I get it. I think I get what he's doing. I think what I will recommend... Is there another place where CPD is being used? Clear and shut down. Privacy sanitize CPD. Is that just like a... Yeah. Knit. I'd love it if we could either use something more descriptive than CPD. I assume that stands for clear private data, or is it clear personal data? Or at the very least add some documentation here where the preference default is set to explain what the acronym is for. Okay, I'm fine with that. I think I get it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, that's it. That's it. Good job. I am very curious about, while I'm thinking about it, this overinflated font size. I think I know. I think someone else knows about this. I think I saw a bug go by about it. I just want to double check that this is being fixed. Let me see. I just gotta check my email. Yeah, this one. Added some select cells that appear on broken side panel. We'll probably add something similar. Oh no, that is not correct. Maybe it was someone else. Standardized headings. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the heading. So, what's going on here is that we've got an H2. Is that supposed to be font size X large? ID title text. Looks like it is supposed to be, and then this rule, this text and typography. Comes from line 16. Jules, February 8th. Maybe I think I should probably just double check, like, is this the right appearance? Is this the expected appearance when the dialog is open this way? Let's file a bug. Let's find out. Okay. Sanitize toolkit data sanitization. Where is a good place for this bug? Toolkit data sanitization. Okay, sanitization. Is the new sanitization dialog header too large? Hey, need info. I was just looking at the new sanitization dialog while reviewing such and such. What was I reviewing? This bug, such and such. And I noticed that the header on the dialog when opened from the history, opened in the clear history context, or opened via the clear history entry point, is kind of large. See screenshot. Is that the intended appearance? Okay, so let's paste the image. Submit. And this is maybe a defect? Okay. Okay, what did I want to do? I wanted to do the promise stuff. So last week on Joy of Coding, we were working on a new API for asynchronously fetching favicons. It was called Obtain Cached Icon File Async, creatively enough. Oh, Smurfty says maybe add that you run Mac to the bug. Yeah, why not? If it's at all useful, I'm running on Mac OS Sonoma. I'm running on Nightly. That screenshot is from Nightly, today's Nightly on Mac OS Sonoma. Okay. So we've got our cool function here, and it's doing some interesting stuff. I think the most interesting part, it calculates an icon path, and if it calculates an icon path, it doesn't check to see whether or not a file's there, but it calculates where a favicon file could be, and then our goal is to dispatch a job to the IO thread to do the actual statting to see whether or not there's a file there. And we are having build problems. That was what we were dealing with, is that whenever I have this like new runnable function Lambda thing, then for some reason the function signature it doesn't like it. It doesn't like it, and I don't know why. And unfortunately, my RDP is being a little unresponsive. There we go. No matching member function for the call to resolve or reject, because apparently promise holder isn't the right type. Or no matching member function, candidate function template not viable, no known conversion from the reference remove reference T, Moz promise holder, Moz promise string, and it's resolve or reject. I think I just wanted to reject. Let's try maybe, or let's just resolve. Promise holder. Promise holder is a Moz promise holder. Let's just see what people have done with that before. Moz promise holder. We call ensure on it. Then here we've moved the holder into something called m pending data requests. And presumably for each one you can do like reject or maybe reject. On the promise holder you can reject. So maybe that's what let's do that. Let's promise holder dot reject. And then what are they passing? And let's error failure and then func. This feels very familiar. I think we did this before, but let's see what it throws at us now. I have a feeling we're kind of going in circles here. That's okay. Sometimes when you're going in circles, you're actually slowly narrowing in on the center of the circle. Now, don't get overconfident just because it built widget windows. Yeah, here we go. It's the linking where things start to fall apart. Okay, so the candidate value reject can take a reject value and a method name. Object argument. No known conversion from this, aka promise holder, and it holds a promise. That promise can resolve to a character string, char16t string, or it can reject with an S result and it's exclusive. And then we cannot convert that to Mozilla Moz promise holder base, Mozilla Moz promise, NST string 16t, NS result true, or Mozilla Moz promise holder, Mozilla Moz promise, char16t, NS result true. That's like a, so the base holds two. Cannot convert it. I think we're doing this wrong. Promise holder. Moz promise holder. What? Moz promise holder. What are your methods? It implements two. It's templated for promise type. It's promise holder base. I can pass it reject. A reject value. Did I do this wrong? This is fairly difficult to read. So we have the holder, and the holder, let's go back to that example for the clipboard one. I like this example. Get data promise is a Moz promise, and obtain cached icon file async promise is also a Moz promise. I believe we define it here. Type def. and a string. I type def it. They used using. I don't know if that super matters. Okay. So that checks out, and we create a holder for it, and then we ensure the holder. We create the holder first, and holder.ensure creates the promise for us. What does ensure do? Use this as a member variable for classes method to turn ensure. So we'll go ahead and create a new promise. I see. So that works. And then we're dispatching to a background thread. We're moving the holder. We move the icon file. And here, I'm saying promise holder dot reject. And it's complaining that calling dot reject doesn't work because the candidate function template is not viable. AKA this, I have a harder time reading this left one, like remove reference T. I don't know what that means, but here it kind of blows it out for me. Const, that's different. Const Mozilla Moz promise holder. Cannot convert. And then there's this Moz promise holder base. And the holder itself. Yeah, it's weird. This is like kind of recursive. A Moz promise holder. Part of its definition is itself here. I don't think that's going to matter, but I don't think there are any great examples in the tree of doing what it is that I'm trying to do. Let's look for some more though. Yeah, the Smurfy's asking whether or not seems to be something about that you are using Moz promise holder base and not promise holder. Even though a Moz promise holder is a Moz promise holder base. He links to this. Yeah, Moz promise holder is a kind of Moz promise holder base, but also is part of its own definition. Or is it that one of the parameters are wrong? I don't know. It's very abstract. Yeah, it really didn't like that const that I added. Error. This argument to member function ensure has type const, aka, but function is not marked const. I see. So that's no good. So calling holder is actually going to change it. Or calling ensure changes it, so it can't be const. promise holder. This is for Dom promises. Not exactly the same. And this one is for... Okay, hold up. Standard move. Make unique. Let's see if we can copy this form and see what happens. Maybe that will make it happier. So we're saying make unique a Moz promise holder of a particular kind of promise. Okay, so auto promise holder equals make unique, and then a Moz promise holder of a favicon, this garbage, and then we instantiate, and then we get access to the promise. Ref pointer, the promise equals promise holder ensure func. Okay. Then, what were they doing? File system input. Source. Here's the lambda. Promise holder, standard move, promise holder. And then it's saying resolve if exists. True. And it's using... Oh, it's using... It's a pointer. Okay. Let's say reject if exists. Reject if exists. Is that a thing? Yeah, reject if exists. What do you think of that? Good old trick of copying what's already in Searchbox. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of cargo culting for sure. I'm way outside my comfort zone with these Moz promises. I'm really just looking for legitimate forms to do what it is that I'm trying to do. I'm hoping my reviewers can tell me if there's a better way of doing it. Use of undeclared identifier. Okay, I can fix that. 1077. Yeah, never heard you. All right, try again. The thing is, I want to be able to like ultimately understand what it is that I just wrote. If it works, if that works, and it compiles, I'm not satisfied until I understand why. Like, what's the difference between what I had written before and what I've written now? Like, why is a unique pointer helpful here? Look, it's linking. It's working. Incredible. Okay, so I'm gonna add a to do. Figure out why I can't just do this. Why is a unique pointer helpful? How come I can't just pass this holder to the lambda and call .resolve or reject on it? Smurfd says it's the dot versus the arrow. Maybe. I mean, let's try it. Let's put it back and then see if the arrow helps. linking. Linking Park over here. CPU's not even that busy. What you doing? There we go. Okay. Badumts. Do I have a badumts? Kinda. I wish I had a badumts. Closest thing I got. Okay, so let's take this stuff, comment it out. We're gonna put this stuff. Let's put this stuff back. We'll call this promise holder instead. And see if this compiles. Make unique. I don't think this is gonna work, but maybe. Yeah. It's not a pointer. Did you mean to use dot? Maybe it needed to be a pointer. Maybe that's the thing. What does make unique do again? Make unique. Helper function for allocating nude objects in arrays, returning a unique pointer containing the resulting pointer. The semantics of make unique are as follows. If type is an array, disallowed, deleted, no overload for you. If type is an array T, if type, so we don't, it's neither of these. If type is non-array T, the arguments passed to make unique are forwarded into a new call, initialize. Oh. Should I have been I was creating this on the stack. Make ref pointer. Move holder. I made this on the stack. Holder sure that's on the stack. We're moving it into a select audio output task, which is a get user media task. Oh man. We make a ref pointer. We pass it. Select audio task. We take one of these mouse props holder to a holder. We move it into us. Okay, so I don't think we're on a different thread here. I don't think. How about over here? Unique pointer holder. What was the definition? Make unique eliminates use of new from code entirely. What's the difference between Moz assert and a regular assert? Well, Moz assert will, in debug builds, crash the browser. Intentionally crash the browser and create a crash report. I'm not sure what you mean by a regular assert. Like, is there a C++ assert? Is there some kind of assert? I don't know. I've never used this before. If this is what you're referring to, I've never used this before. I do know. Okay, so it looks like we will crash. Main will abort here in the event of an assertion failure. But I will tell you that I don't know how old this stuff is, but Moz Assert is from like the late 90s, early 2000s. So my guess is Moz Assert is just a much older way of doing assert. You know, we've had it since we've had it since before C++ had its own like assert library, I guess, in the standard library. Then, assuming all explicit release calls are safe, including transitively and no-type safety casting, fine is correctly maintain ownership of the unique component, guarantees no leaks are possible, it pays out best to the class if created through a factory method of the class using a private constructor, initializing a unique pointer using it. So it means that there's only one thing pointing at something at one time. Using a new expression requires repeating the name of the new type, whereas make unique in concert with the auto keyword only does it once. This is repetitive. This is shorter. Okay. In the long run, it's probably a reasonable assumption. In the short run, I'll have to look at your judgment. Call and make unique can be assigned directly to a unique pointer. Make unique is exception safe. An exception thrown after new T succeeds will leak the memory. Well, I don't have a great answer yet for why we need to use unique pointer here, but it seems like it's the difference between, I think it's a threading, maybe has to do with transferring memory between threads. Maybe we can find more examples. Make unique, Moz promise, proc info common, holder ensure. Here we move. Yeah, this is exactly the form that we want. This is what we want. Okay. All right, well, I guess I learned that that's how it's supposed to be. That's what I've learned today. I guess, my guess is that it has to do with moving something allocated on the stack across to our worker thread, and the lambda function that runs in it. Okay, well, anyways, we've got something that compiles. That's good. And what I want to do now, instead of just like automatically rejecting, is we're going to check to see if the... actually, I should put that back so I can remember how to do it. But we should see whether or not the file is actually there. So what we were doing before was we were checking to see if the icon file exists. And so we can do that immediately. We can do ICO file exists. So bool exists. NS result RV, and then if NS failed RV, promise holder, reject if exists, and then we're going to pass RV. If it does exist, then we're going to resolve. and we're going to resolve with the... Oh, well, hold on a second. We have to... There's all these rules. We have to see whether or not it needs to be invalidated. Okay, well, let's put some commentary in. The way this one works is there's like two branches. If it exists, check to see if it's invalid, like if it's expired, and if so, go retrieve the new one. If it doesn't exist, go retrieve off the network. And then it's, if we escape here, it means we must have found it. Now, I wonder if we can improve on that a little bit, because both of these jobs occur in the event that either the file is invalidated or the file doesn't exist. Let's get the last modified time. File mod. Let's basically copy this stuff. Obtain the file's last modification time in seconds. And then this method, can I call this on this thread? Get ICO cache seconds timeout. What is that? Oh, we're going to do a pref read. We might need to pass this in from the main thread. We can't read the prefs off of the main thread. So we might have to pass this in. Okay. So if it fails, we're gonna, if we couldn't get the modified, okay, here's the rule. Either we couldn't stat it, I think what I want to say is like, the opposite of this. If is there one that's like NS succeeded? I think there is. If NS succeeded and now time minus file mod time is less than that. If the last mod call failed, I'm going to say if the stat to get last modified succeeded, I think we can do better. If the file seems to be less than ICO read cache seconds timeout old, then we can go ahead and return its path on the file system. Okay, we'll go ahead and return its path on the file system. So that's this part. NS succeeded. Then wait, ICO path. So we need to write. We're going to resolve the promise. Get path. So we need a string. I think it's like auto. NS auto string. ICO file path. We're going to get it. If we succeeded in getting it, then we need to resolve. Finally, promise holder resolve if exists. And yeah, it's a string, NS string. So I think we can just say, I can just say that and then return. Now, if we get here, then we just need to retrieve. Something went, either the icon wasn't there, or was too old. Was too old, or we failed to get information about it. Fall back to retrieving it. Okay, and then we will do this cache icon file from favicon URI async. Now, what does that do? We're on a different thread. We check to see whether or not places exists. Oh boy. We get the favicon service. We might have to dispatch a job back to the main thread to do this part. And then have the callback then resolve the promise. Favicon data ready. Get favicon data for page. Async favicon data ready. When it's not available, we'll download it. On complete, it'll write it to the disk, and then we write the icon on the IO thread. What happens to the runnable? What does the runnable? Async encode and write icon. This runnable. So we write, and eventually we will run the runnable here. What would be lovely is if we actually oh boy, if we get the, we need to get the path out. Here it's just a callback's being called, but it's not being passed anything useful. It's just saying, hey, I'm done. Okay. Falling back to retrieving it. So, unfortunately, this involves invoking. We have to queue our runnable. Have to kick this off on the main thread. So we have to bounce back over there. So we're gonna queue a function here. On the main thread to do a thing. Now, what did we do in the jump list builder? Dispatch to main thread. Okay. So there's like a new runnable function. And what we're gonna pass back the what did it use to get it? The URI. So we actually will need the URI in here as well. We need to move the URI. I wonder if what we could do instead is we can, because this is a promise, we could chain it. So like if we go promise holder reject if exists, what was the signal that we used? It was NS error not available. And then what we could do is over here, we could put a then on this promise. In the event of a resolution, do nothing. In the event of a rejection, handle the rejection on the main thread by kicking off the async part. Oh boy. No, then we have to... Can you chain Moz promises? If you have a Moz promise and you reject on it, and you chain that into another... Oh boy. This is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Carve that on my tombstone. All right, I'm going to have to think about this for a bit. hey, thanks for watching. We figured out our compilation issue, kind of. We learned what we needed to do. We needed to use make unique. This seems to be the pattern. Unfortunately, the process of actually retrieving the favicon, we've got to like message back to the main thread to go get the favicon, I think. I want to take some time maybe next week to look at how the favicon service works, because maybe there's another way of doing this. But yeah, I suspect we're gonna have to message back to the main thread, kick this part off, and then resolve the promise that we're returning here once our callback is fired. But we have to get the path out somehow. Oh, this is awkward. This is awkward. We might end up having to rewrite humongous chunks of some of this stuff. Get favicon data for page. Like the favicon service, get favicon data for page. And the favicon ready. Like these runnables. Favicon cache is available. These runnables, I'd love it if I could somehow have it pass the path and it just be ignored by the old version, the old consumer of this stuff. So the runnable, the decoding, the downloading of the favicon and the encoding of it, that's fine. It's the writing where eventually the runnable is run. Are we able to pass more information like the path here? That's something to think about next week. Hey gang, thanks for watching. This was episode 356 of The Joy of Coding. We got through a bunch of reviews. Thanks for sitting through those. And then we started to get into this stuff. We were able to get our stuff compiled. Good news, the jump list stuff that we've been working on, that all of this is kind of tangential to, the jump list stuff just went to beta. So it's going out there in 1.24 beta, and if all goes well in beta, QA's testing it on beta, and eventually if all goes well, it'll go out to release on by default in 1.24 release. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm gonna wrap it here. Thanks again, everybody. Let me know what you thought of the stream. There's a link in the agenda to rate this episode. I'm actually gonna link to rating form. I'm going to put a link to the rate this episode form in the chat. I just did that. Please click on that. You can use that to let me know what you thought of the stream, but you can also use it to ask questions if you saw something that you were curious about, you want me to expand upon. Ask me questions and I'll do my best to try and answer them. I myself am quite confused still on why we needed to use a unique pointer, but I'm hoping to eventually sort of sort that out. I might have to talk to some of our C++ experts and Moz Promise experts to guide me on what the heck's going on there. But until then, courage, everybody, and I will see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.